How's everyone doing? Today I have a Blu-ray update with 5 pickups, and if you've seen any of these movies, definitely let me know what you think of them, and let me know which one is your favorite from this lot. First up is Dark Crimes from Lionsgate, starring Jim Carrey in a darker role. I actually really enjoy him in dramatic roles. I think he's a diverse actor, not just comedic, but I really liked him in Truman Show. And then another darker role, number 23. I liked his acting performance better than the movie as a whole, but I enjoy him in the darker themed kind of movies, and this is definitely one of them. It's based on a true story about a Polish writer who killed a businessman who he thought was having an affair with his ex-wife. This movie right here is about Jim Carrey, who is a Polish detective, and he's trying to get to the bottom of this case, which happens to have a dead body in it, and the person who was murdered used to frequent this sex club, and he finds out this writer wrote basically a very similar story, and that there's no way that anybody else could have known about it besides the killer. So he's investigating the writer, and Charlotte Gainsbourg is the mother of the writer's child right there, and they kind of have an estranged relationship. And so Jim Carrey gets involved with her, as well as some interesting relationship aspects. It's very dark and brooding and atmospheric, but the pacing is a little too dramatic and bogs the film down. I feel like this movie could have been a lot better than it ended up being. It has a lot of washed out hues, a lot of, blacks and grays and blues and tints like that. And that reflects the bleak tone of the movie too. By the end of the movie, I felt like the last scene, as soon as this one thing is handed off, you're like, you know what's going to happen. But I just felt like it could have played out a lot better than it did. I think it was a bit of a missed opportunity, especially for Jim Carrey. I thought it was very good in the role. The brooding presence right there. He was definitely, him and Charlotte Gainsbourg were really the best parts of the movie. A lot of the supporting cast were just kind of there. And again, the story, I felt like they try to, sensationalize it a little bit different from the actual case. And I felt like it could have been better if they played it truer to the actual case. I felt like it was a little bland, and again, I felt like it was a missed opportunity too. And that's a shame, because I really did enjoy the acting performances here. And it is if you do happen to like the movie, it is a nice release, picture quality wise, for it. The only special feature is making of. Next up is I Feel Pretty from Universal with Amy Schumer. This also stars Busy Phillips, who I definitely enjoy, Aidy Bryant, Rory Scovel, Emily Ratajkowski, Michelle Williams. Michelle Williams is probably my favorite part of this movie, her character and role in it, and she just played it to the T. I used to be a big Amy Schumer fan. This was probably like 6-7 years ago. I used to go see her perform live stand-up all the time. And I remember thinking back in the day, it was like, why isn't she famous? She deserves to be way bigger than she is. And then she got the breakout TV show, and then I think the fame went to her head, and she kind of went out of control. And I remember going back to the comedy clubs I used to see her at, and she suddenly had demands for the green room, and then she wouldn't talk to the people that worked at the comedy club, and she just stormed off stage after each set. It was really shocking. I remember people in line were saying, is she leaving? And yeah, just because she was rude and wouldn't talk to the staff members or the owner of the club, which is crazy to me. And after every show, she used to, back in the day, used to be really fan-friendly, or maybe it was just more about making money, because she used to sell her CDs and stand-up stuff and take pictures and stuff like that. But then once she got famous, she refused to take pictures, and she doesn't need to do that, I guess. And I guess before it was all about the money. And I feel like she somehow got characterized as feminist comedy, and she's not at all. She still does the same sex jokes that she's been doing for nearly a decade. She just has writers now that put in some kind of feminist take on things, and just because she is a female comedian doesn't make her the voice of female gender roles overall and feminists. I think she does a very poor job of that, and she continues to show that here with I Feel Pretty, which is essentially a feminist take on Shallow Hal, and just less funny, less interesting. They try to play up all of the stereotypes and the female aspect of it, and all that kind of stuff. But jokes fall flat. It's cringy to see her try to deliver the jokes. It just feels uncomfortable with the interaction. And the overall feminist take on it, the message is lost. It starts out right in the first couple minutes. It's just like really driven into you, and it just gets mixed around, and it feels very shallow itself. I think it gets lost, and Amy Schumer. I just don't think she was funny in here at all, and it's a shame because I used to be such a big fan of hers, and she just completely changed ego personality wise and got somehow less funny. And not to mention all the controversy with her stealing jokes. And I remember seeing so many reviews to this, and I don't know, I can't, this is just my opinion. It seemed like a lot of the reviews for this were fake reviews, giving it a lot of, 8 to 10 star ratings, and it just was shocking to see some of the repetitive things said in some of the reviews. So that was another thing that really kind of bothered me after watching it, because I remember looking up as like I'm, interested in seeing what other people thought of it, and I remember looking up and it was like a 4 out of 10, and then all of a sudden it jumped. I think because it was getting so much backlash, and of course she jumped out and said, "Oh, if you don't like this movie, you hate females," which is just stupid. It's just saying something like that is ridiculous and sensationalist. And again, this movie, it's not funny. It has nothing to do with the fact that there was a female lead. You can put other female actresses in here, comedians, they would do a better job. Not by much though, because the writing is terrible for this. It's so one-dimensional. It's trite garbage. Some people might enjoy this. I'm sure there are some positive reviews out there that really thoroughly enjoyed it, but for me it just felt too one-dimensional, too cliche, nothing new, and it felt just cringy with the jokes. The dialogue was terrible, the writing was terrible. Again, Michelle Williams was the best part of it, and I don't know. I still wish the best for Amy Schumer. I just think an overhaul needs to be done completely on her PR, her image, and her whole career at this point. I still like her old stand-up stuff a lot, though. But yeah, I was really disappointed in this movie. I was going in with an open mind. I really haven't enjoyed any of her movies that she's done. Again, I like her stand-up, though. At least her older stand-up stuff. But let me know what you think about Amy Schumer, and let me know who your favorite female comedian is. And for the special features here, you have deleted scenes, gag reel, and being pretty right there. Next up is Super Troopers 2, which this was 17 years afterwards, and it just feels like it's too derivative, and it kind of, I don't know, there's a disconnect there. It just, I wanted something different, something a little bit more unique. I think they just kind of missed the opportunity. They should have made this a long time ago instead of waiting 17 years. This does have some really good supporting cast in here. Rob Lowe's in here. Who else was in here? Linda Carter, Wonder Woman. You also have Will Sasso from Mad TV. Manuel Cherqui from who's Sloane from Entourage. And then you also have Tyler Bean from Tucker and Dale vs. Evil. I'm trying to remember. Looking at the back, they don't have any of the names listed for those particular actors. They have some of the other people listed, like of course Rob Lowe, Brian Cox, Linda Carter, and then some of the the actual main cast members right here. But I like the supporting cast a lot, especially Emmanuel Cherqui, who I think is just absolutely stunning. She should be in every movie ever. And I think she's actually really talented as well. I think she's not just eye candy. She's intelligent. She's hilarious. I'm a big fan. And I thought everybody was really good in this one. But it just felt too derivative. It just wasn't anything spectacular. I was hoping for something better after such a long wait. And I think they just kind of missed the boat, missed the opportunity. This is from the Broken Lizard comedy team, and it's basically about they're all back again. They're going to Vermont. There is a border issue going on. Basically, after all the border rules going on, they found out now that part of Canada actually belongs to the U.S. and is part of Vermont. So the team is back here, and they're going to be highway patrolmen taking over for the Canadian Mounties, which Will Sasso and Tyler Bean are part of, which I thought they were hilarious in their interactions especially. I really enjoyed that. But overall, again, the movie just doesn't live up to the first one at all. I'd say it's about average. It could have been better. I like the intro scene too. I thought that was really funny with Sean William Scott and Damon Wayans Jr. There's a couple other funny parts here. I like the bear scene. But some of the parts, it's just, again, like I said, it's the same characters doing very similar things. I just wanted something a little bit different, a little bit more unique, stand out, and memorable. I just thought it was kind of routine. You've got some making of, extended deleted scenes. I like the Kevin Heffernan method actor part. That was really funny. So I dig that. And it is a good release here from 20th Century Fox. And next up from Lionsgate is Chappaquiddick, based on the true story of 1969 incident where Ted Kennedy drove while intoxicated, and he ended up crashing his car into I guess like a lake off of Chappaquiddick Island, and Mary Jo Kopecki ended up drowning during it. She was the aide of his brother. This was really an interesting storyline, but I felt it was a little flat, felt a little bland, and it felt a little subjective as well. They talk about him drinking, but they don't really go into it as much as I thought they would. I thought they would kind of say he was really drunk, but they made it seem like he barely had anything. And somehow after he escapes the car himself, he apparently can't get her out and just leaves her there, and then tells some of his friends, and then he ends up going to the hotel, the inn, and basically just, you know, showering, cleaning off, and saying hi to people, making sure that he's known, and getting kind of like an alibi, and basically sleeping and acting like nothing really happened. And then the next day, they kind of try to do a cover-up of it. And then basically he finally owns up to it after obviously there's certain things coming out that he can't really hide anymore. And he decides to take ownership of it. But it was a huge deal and kind of changed the course of American history, because he was in line for presidency. And this basically killed that chance of that happening. But he was still, even with this whole issue of him doing that, essentially being at the wheel drunk while somebody died, and the cover-up thing, he was still the 4th longest serving senator. Of course, he in Massachusetts, but it was kind of shocking to see that how he basically got away with a slap on the wrist and still had a very well-known and popular career. I really liked the cast here too: Jason Clarke, Kate Mara, Ed Helms, and Bruce Dern. Bruce Dern was the father, really kind of demonstrative, even though he was in poor health. Ed Helms is really good. I think he is good in these kind of dramatic roles. He can play outside of comedy very well. I think this is a good showing of that. All the acting performances are really strong across the board, but I really like Ed Helms in here a lot. And so this was I thought it was a really good docudrama, but it felt a little flat, and again, it felt a bit subjective here. I wanted a little bit more from it. I think it was decent and worth a one-time watch, but again, it just left me wanting more from it. And special features are Reckoning, Revisiting Chappaquiddick, and A Bridge to the Past, editing the film. And my slipcover for it, and a good PQ and AQ on here, if you're a fan of it. Nice release from Lionsgate overall. Next up from MVD Visual is China Salesman. This was terrible, horrendous, one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my life. Unintentionally comedic. You've got Mike Tyson and Steven Seagal in here. They fight in the very beginning, and then Steven Seagal is barely in the movie after that, and the fight was poorly done. There could have been a much better fight there, and it looked like Mike Tyson's voice was dubbed in here. It was just a ridiculous movie. There was a scene in here that I still, me and the girl that I watched it with, still joke about it because it was so ridiculous and bad. Basically, I'll talk about that in a minute, though. It's about a cell phone carrier salesman who's trying to get this big deal. They're in North Africa, and he's a Chinese engineer, and he's going against a corrupt competitor, basically dealing with this telecommunications deal, and is going with local tribesmen, and going around there. There's kind of a war that breaks out there, and they're caught up in the middle of it, and they're getting attacked, and they're kind of avoiding explosions and people shooting at them and trying to kill them and take them hostage. And through all of this going on, there's a scene where one of the females in it, she's going up to this lady who's, you don't even know for sure if it's a lady. She's, dressed in the full garb right there, like a robe. And she picks up this goat. She's like, "Excuse me, ma'am, is this your goat?" We were both like, "What?" After you were just shot out, all these explosions going on, you're just going to go up to a random stranger and pick up their goat? It's not a dog. I mean, that scene was just so laughably absurd. It just became like an ongoing joke. "Excuse me, ma'am, is this your goat?" But the acting was just terrible. The dialogue, the plot was so convoluted, and they went way too in depth for it. And this is essentially geared, you get the cover, the advertising for action fans, and action fans are going to be sorely disappointed because there's way too much dialogue, way too much extra added unimportant issues going on here that feel very disconnected for the marketing, which is the action parts, because there was very little of that. There's a couple other fight scenes here and there, some shootouts, but overall it was more about the dialogue and trying to make these deals, and the lead telecommunications Chinese engineer and how good he is, and it's based on a true story, and comes full circle where everything gets fixed, and they talk about how great he is and how noble he is and honorable and all this, and you don't care. Nobody cares about this communications deal, cell phone deal. It's about the action, and it just doesn't deliver. And again, poor writing, poor dialogue, the story just ridiculous, too in depth and convoluted, and it's the marketing. It's supposed to be over the top action, and it's just not. The fight sequences were poor. It was basically, obviously, a payday film for a lot of these actors, especially Tyson and Seagal. One of the worst movies I've ever seen. Just absurd, ridiculous. I could not recommend it on any level except for unintentional comedy. But I wouldn't want it. It felt like it was like 3 hours long. I'm trying to remember what the time. 110 minutes. So 10 minutes shy of 2 hours, but it felt like, double that essentially. It was rough to sit through. Battle of attrition to get through this. We both wanted to turn it off so many times, but I felt like I had to get through it, had to see how it ended, and it was disappointing on every level. So there you go. Those are the 5 pickups right there. If you've seen any of these movies, definitely let me know what you think of them. Overall, these movies were pretty disappointing. Chappaquiddick would probably be the best of the bunch. Super Troopers 2 was just okay. I really couldn't recommend the rest of them. But there you go. Again, the presentations were all pretty decent. Yeah, let me know what you think of these movies if you've seen them, and which was your favorite from the bunch. Leave me a comment or video response down below. Hope everyone's doing well. Take care. Excuse me, ma'am. Is this your goat?